good evening, and welcome to this, the first televised debate of the 2003 Fort Wayne mayoral campaign. It's brought to you by News Channel 15, IPFW, the IPFW Office of Multicultural Services, and the Mike Down Center for Indiana Politics. Now, the format for this evening is going to be very simple. We're going to start out with opening statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes for his or her opening statement. After that, they'll be asked a series of questions. One candidate will be given the chance to issue a brief response, and then after that, the other candidate will be able to jump in and we'll have a few minutes of discussion, good discussion, on each question. At the end of the broadcast tonight, each candidate will have 2.5 minutes to do a closing statement. Now, we did a coin toss about a week ago to decide what the order would be for all of this, so we'll get to that in just a moment. Audience, you are asked to refrain from applause or any comments so we can keep things moving along here tonight in an orderly fashion. The panelists for this debate, and we are happy to have them with us tonight, are Karla Pineda. Karla is the president of IPFW's Hispanos Unidos, and Bryson Sharp. Bryson is the president of IPFW's Black Collegian Caucus. The candidates, you're probably familiar with them. The challenger is Republican Linda Buskirk. The incumbent is the Democrat Mayor, Graham Richard. Linda, you won the coin toss. You make the first opening statement, and I think we're ready.
Well, thank you. Thank you to IPFW's Office of Multicultural Services, to you students being here tonight, to the Down Center, and to News Channel 15 for offering this opportunity to talk about the future. When I was a student here at IPFW, the future was a little more settled. Like many of my fellow students, I was working on furthering my career with my degree, as well as trying to balance family and a job. For most of us, leaving Fort Wayne wasn't an option we wanted to consider. But today, for too many people, leaving Fort Wayne has become a necessity. That's because we face an economic crisis. 13,000 manufacturing jobs lost in the last few years. Several local companies, longtime companies, pulling out or cutting back. Central Soya, Slater Steel, Lincoln, Dana, Tokheim. Now, the economic crisis isn't going to be over when the economy rebounds. Those 13,000 manufacturing jobs are not going to magically reappear. America's position has changed because of the global economy. Now, many people say, well, given all those national and international circumstances, there's not much America can do, and that's why we haven't seen much. But that's a discouraging attitude, and it's just not true. Of course, we can do better. That's the title of my plan to work on keeping and attracting jobs. Since it's been published, there have been full-page newspaper articles, magazines, television coverage like never before in the last 4 years about this very important issue. That's what a mayor's leadership should do. Raise the agenda, set the agenda for the community, allow and inspire a lot of discussion and ideas, and then work toward great results and get action. I'm proud of the fact that I have been able to put this plan forward and have received so much public support. Now, my opponent says he's the best person for the job because of his business background. But the leaders at the Greater Fort Wayne Chamber of Commerce Political Action Committee have endorsed me to get the economy back on track. My opponent says he's the best person for the job because of his record on public safety. But those on the front lines, our police officers and firefighters, have endorsed me, which is very humbling and makes me very proud. I've been endorsed by business, endorsed by labor. A leader needs to be able to work with all of the diverse organizations and individuals of a community to get things done, and I welcome this opportunity tonight to talk more about that. Thank you.
Linda, thank you. Let's hear from the mayor now.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you, Linda, for joining me and all of those who are here today at IPFW. We appreciate our 2 students who are going to represent the questions today. Thank you for being with us as well. I believe that the city of Fort Wayne is a better city. It's a better city because we've been working on the fundamentals, doing the basics well. To attract businesses and to retain jobs, we must have the kind of improvement that I have helped to lead in these last 4 years during tough times. Over $147 million invested in improving our city, from more than doubling the amount of road resurfacing from the time that Linda was responsible for that, to improving every aspect of city government, reducing the time it takes to get the permits necessary for building a new business, making sure that we are improving snow removal, filling the potholes in record time, doing the basics well. We must have the kind of city where businesses know that the services from the water utility to the sewer utility to public safety, to parks and recreation. All of those services that are vital to our community are constantly being improved. I am committed to that, and through the listening and the learning that took place at the first part of my administration, we called together for the first time in 10 years 125 individuals from throughout our community. We held public meetings, we had a summit meeting, and we created the Economic Development Action Plan. And every month we've updated the specific goals of that plan on our website, and we've communicated, in fact, many times to the public how we are progressing. We're measuring that progress. One of the things that we recently saw was the opportunity for us to work as a team. It's easy for a mayor to claim credit, but in fact today the complex process of recruiting, retaining businesses is a team effort through our Economic Development Alliance, of which the Chamber and the county government are all partners. We were able to retain over 800 jobs and add more jobs for North American. I will continue to fight to retain every job by building a better city.
Mayor, thank you. Thank you both. Let's get to the questions. Linda, the first one is directed towards you initially. Many young people leave Fort Wayne and then come back after they've lived in other communities. Do you think this is a problem? If so, what can be done to keep these young people from leaving in the first place?
Well, I think it's great that they come back, and many people do come back to Fort Wayne because they realize this is a great place to live. It's a wonderful cost of living and many opportunities here for individuals and for companies. But of course, no matter how wonderful a community is at its core, if there are not jobs, then there's not much of a reason to come back. And as I said in my opening statement, unfortunately for too many people, leaving becomes a necessity. We need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to focus our economic development and efforts in a way that makes sense. Obviously, the things of the past haven't been working very well, and the world has changed. We need to be able to focus our economic development efforts on ways that will help small businesses grow and expand, and that we're listening to companies that are located here, whether their headquarters are here or somewhere else, to make sure that they have the jobs of the future. We also need to make sure we're investing in our community in a way that makes it attractive for young people to live here, especially with our greenways and our downtown really getting something exciting happening there. So many other communities are ahead of us on that, and I think it's time for Fort Wayne to really be on the map as a progressive community, working to make those amenities at our forefront and making sure we're a welcoming place for individuals and for our companies.
Mayor, this is your chance to jump in.
Well, I grew up near this campus. I grew up right across the street in Kirkwood Park. My family still lives there. I went away and came back, and I think there are many who choose to spend a little time, whether it's in the military or perhaps getting an education or even taking another job and come back. The issue is that 80% of the students that have an opportunity to study here at local colleges and universities stay in this area, are contributors to the community. They're anchored here. They provide the opportunity for a well-trained workforce and jobs. The City of Fort Wayne has been a partner in making sure that IPFW is filling that need, along with the other colleges and universities. I'll continue that partnership to make sure that we are encouraging every young person to go on and seek additional post-high school learning. When I graduated from Northside in 1965, you could get a job with high wages and low skills at International Harvester. Today, the economy is different. And so we're doing things like partnering with the 21st Century Scholar Program, a partnership with the Indiana Possibility Network, which is a $10 million Lilly grant through Indiana Wesleyan to connect learners with opportunities to get the kind of learning that will help them with earning. We're also making sure that we commit to working with every corporation in our community to go after a new Lilly Endowment Challenge grant to retain and gain additional brain power here. Every major university, through the Economic Development Alliance and the Corporate Council, with the city participating, came together to apply for those new funds. I don't believe in the gloom and doom concept that the last person leaving Fort Wayne has to turn out the lights. We've created over 3,000 new jobs in the last 4 years. We've helped to retain over 12,500 jobs. We have a new active partnership that's getting national attention and recognition by site selection specialists as being one of the best in the country. I feel the future is bright, and the opportunity for us to come out of this national recession, rising above these tough times and doing well, is very good. I look to that future with a positive sense for the growth of our community.
Yes, you can jump in. That's the format.
All right. You know, I think obviously there's been a lot of plans and there's been committees and there are some good ideas on the table, but really we need to make our community the place that young people feel like they're welcome and that they're going to have a voice in the future. If they don't feel that their ideas can be heard here, that they have an opportunity to be involved in their community, then they're not going to want to be able to stay here. Jobs is the first thing, but also a welcoming community that has the kind of amenities they want. I recently visited Indianapolis and was on the Monon Trail, and it's exciting to see how that kind of effort is not only great for recreation, but really the young people there, young families, individuals walking on the trail. Why can't Fort Wayne do that instead of just having a trail system that sort of sits numbly by besides the rivers? You know, we can do a lot of things that can make our community a lot more fun and attractive for young people. And not only that, provide the kind of opportunities, the voices, making sure that our Innovation Center does welcome and as it does, I think, a great job of being able to help young entrepreneurs get ideas started. We have great companies here that could become even greater if the ideas of young people, especially related to technology, kind of are allowed to grow and prosper to help make those companies even smarter and work smarter and better. I just talked to a businessman the other day who said a technology company says all of the people that he employs generally are under 25 when they first start there because he wants those young ideas, and that's the kind of company we need to continue to encourage in Fort Wayne.
Our next question will come from Karla, one of our student panelists, and it's addressed to the mayor.
Making government more accessible is more than making forms available in other languages and having translators available. As Fort Wayne becomes more diverse, what will you do to help new residents understand the role of government? How will you engage them in the importance of politics and city life?
Thank you for that question. It's a very important question, and there are three things I'd like to talk about that we're already doing. One of those is the International Festival that we started, which came about as a result of the work on the Complete Count Census information in 2000. That festival started as a neighborhood festival focused on the northwest side of our community and grew so rapidly that last year we had over 5,000 people attend that festival at Southside High School. In addition to that, the Hispanic Latino Leadership Council has been set up. I've had roundtable discussions reaching out to all those who are interested in coming together to share the rich diversity and the traditions of the cultures that are represented in our community. In addition to that, we've worked very hard to encourage the partnership, as I mentioned, with the 21st Century Scholar Program. My administration, and actually during the campaign in 1999, we worked with individuals throughout the community who may not have understood that a college education could be partially paid for by qualifying for the 21st Century Scholar Program. In addition, we've repositioned the Community Development Block Grant money so that programs like the Maya Youth Center, like the new Prime Time Center, which is an after-school program right next to Southside High School that will reach out to children of all backgrounds, young people that are in need of an after-school program. Those are the ways that we're continuing to work to reach out in the community to serve young people and adults who bring a great new tradition to our community.
I think Fort Wayne has become pretty good about celebrating our differences, but where I think we really need work is mainstreaming those who are different in our newest residents and the growing population from the Latino population and also Asian populations into our community a little more. You know, everywhere I go at the celebrations or talking to with different businesses, there are people of different ethnic backgrounds who have lived here for 25 years in top professions, yet I've never met them at the Chamber of Commerce or at board meetings in government. And so I think it's important for us as a community for government to take the lead into appointing more people to boards and commissions, to involving them and encouraging them to run for public office. And that's very important. Of course, that Hispanic Leadership Coalition that the mayor talked about started long before he became the mayor, and that's a growing pool of information and great resources for our community to stay in contact. There's other groups in town, the Black Data Processors Association, many of the Asian communities that I've enjoyed visiting, where you could really go for great input about the needs and struggles that they have. I don't want to discount, though, government being able to communicate with them. I think that is important, and I think government really should set the lead and be a great example for our corporate community also in making sure that we have communication, not just one person in the government or one person in the police department that is multi-language, capabilities, but also making sure that all of the communications are available as much as possible in different languages, so we do start that education.
No response on...
I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm very happy to respond to that. Linda brought up a very interesting point about diversity in appointments. The Board of Works has responsibility for about more than $100 million worth of investments that are made in our community. And John Suarez is a member of that board, that three-person board that Linda chaired at one time in the previous administration. In addition to that, we have the first African-American fire chief, Tim Davey. And at least at this point, Linda has not indicated that he would be removed, as she indicated with Chief York in a rather unceremonious approach. I think it's important that we continue to do things like the Mayor's Youth Council. I established the Youth Council to reach out to young people. Young people of color, of different ethnic backgrounds are participating. And in fact, we formed a partnership with Smoke Free Indiana to encourage the cessation of smoking, particularly among some of our new residents, some of the young people in our community who were injuring their health by starting at an early age to get into smoking. And so that Youth Council, again, will be meeting. New members are coming on this year, and we're reaching out to engage all of the citizens of our community in what they can do as young people to be involved actively in their community and the public issues.
I think it's also important when we talk about the international flavor of Fort Wayne these days, which is really exciting to me, is to look at where our natural strengths already are in that. And when I think of that, I think of Calhoun Street. South Calhoun is a wonderful international flair right now with the different restaurants, Mexican, Asian, grocery stores and shopping. It's very exciting, yet the current administration has chosen to say, well, we're going to take another area and try to make an international village there. I think we need to look at our natural strengths, work with those businesses already and those communities. They're already active and thriving. And I think South Calhoun could be a great cultural center for Fort Wayne. We need to focus some economic development resources and energy on helping that and build that area into, I think, what would be a very popular place, like a broad ripple type of effect, if you will, for the south side of Fort Wayne. That would be very exciting. And we need to, again, look at mainstreaming and making sure that people of all nationalities not only feel welcomed here, but are really part of our business community in a very important way.
And that'll have to be the last word on this one because we need to move the debate along. Let's get to Bryson. He has the next question, and it will be directed to Linda Buskirk.
How can we revitalize our downtown? What visions of downtown's role do you have? And what plans could make the downtown a place people would like to visit beyond festival time?
It's a good question, and it's one of the things I address in We Can Do Better, because I think that downtown is the heart of the community, and I'd like us to see some action. It's called We Can Do Better because I think do is the operative word there, and what I'd like to see happen is some investment along the river. Now, I know it's a dangerous year to be talking about building along the river, and I don't mean building in the floodplain, but there are private properties available and private owners willing right now. 4 years ago, the owners of OmniSource talked about the possibility of developing their property, and just this year, finally, the city moved to create a district to allow that to happen. Well, I just visited Anderson recently, and Anderson, which has really been far more economically depressed for far longer than Fort Wayne has, is seeing exciting new development downtown because government is a partner. It's focusing with people. Innovative ideas and programs that other communities are using is what I talk about in my plan, to give people tools, also to be able to cut regulation, to be able to help with restoring historic projects downtown. My vision for downtown is similar to what the community plan put together, but with a lot more pizzazz, making sure we've got entertainment and are helping companies renovate those older areas and along the rivers. I think it can be very exciting.
Bryson, thanks for your question. It is very important, and unfortunately, when I came into office, I asked for the downtown plan of the previous administration. It was developed in 1987. Did not have downtown improvement district participation, did not have county participation. And so the first thing I did was to say, let's get moving on putting that plan together and make it an action plan. And we've got to have partners to do that. So the Grand Wayne Center had been talked about. We now put the $40 million financing package together with county participation. That's underway to double the size of that. We've got the library expansion going. And one of the things that I did in the first 6 months was to create a downtown clean team. Linda Buskirk was responsible for streets and street repair and cleaning. And we simply said, let's dedicate some resources right downtown to improve the cleanliness of our town. It's a basic step. It's sort of like going into a restaurant. You go into the restroom, it's not clean. You say, I'm not sure that I want to patronize this business again. You have to do the basics well. We've improved the landscaping. We've improved the landing. We've been working with OmniSource for over 2.5 years. We're making good progress on that project. An RFP is ready to go out to seek the developers that can assist. We have created clusters of activity downtown. We've made an investment in the Arts Plaza. We're working closely to make sure that we are able to encourage wintertime downtown activity. I'm delighted to see that we will now have an ice skating rink open in the winter months at Headwaters to complement the wintertime turning on of the holiday lights that we've created now as a downtown winter festival. The activities require a partnership. It isn't someone who can stand up and just wave a magic wand. We've got some of the toughest financial challenges we've had in city government, and yet we're allocating resources to the downtown beautification, the downtown improvement, and we have a blueprint and a plan, and we're working to move ahead. I'm very optimistic about what will be happening in downtown for your future and for ours.
Well, it's good we have another plan, because goodness knows we've got plenty of those. And really, I don't think that was the first thing on your agenda. The first thing was ducking the issue of the downtown arena. And it wasn't until that whole issue finally subsided that the city and the county got together to say, well, maybe we better start on working on a plan. And I think that there was a lot of energy that was dissipated in that time until the plan and the committee got started. We really need to have a focus for our downtown that makes sense for our future.
May I ask a question, Linda? You brought up ducking the downtown. What would you have done on the arena plan versus the Coliseum? Would you have opposed the expansion of the Coliseum and promoted the downtown arena? What was your position, and when did you take it?
My position all along was that the Coliseum plan was the way to go at that time. Already the financing had been put in place, and it was unrealistic to stop that progress on that particular project in order to talk about a plan that was yet developed. So
my taking a position that's different than yours is ducking the issue? I took the position that I wanted to have a year's delay so that we could study a downtown plan and look at how we could come together to study the ability of having a downtown arena.
Well, of course, there couldn't have been a year's delay, because that meant the Coliseum project went forward, so you couldn't stop the Coliseum project. I think the idea of having a plan for downtown is important, but what I'm talking about now are tools in order to be able to make something happen downtown. I think that's really what we need. We need leadership to be able to say, here's the direction that we need to go, and to be able to say, here are the tools available, and we're excited about working with private business to make something happen.
And during the period of time that you were in the previous administration as head of the Board of Works, did you help promote putting together a new plan from the '87 plan? Why wasn't there a downtown plan with the county participating? We now have an action plan. We're taking steps. We're building the Grand Wayne Center. The library is expanding. We are implementing step by step the plan that was put together. It's an action plan, and we've gotten the Creed District assigned.
Can I answer your question?
Yeah.
All right. And I hate to do this. We have to cut this off for time purposes. Maybe we'll come back to it. There's probably a good chance with all the time that we have. We have to change the topic for just a moment. Fort Wayne is losing jobs that paid good wages but did not require sophisticated skills. We've touched on this. We're going to go into it again. I'm directing this one to the mayor. What can be done to help these people develop the skills that are necessary to find jobs that pay a living wage?
The most important thing that we are doing is encouraging the learning that will get additional earning. The workforce development initiatives are now focused on supporting the growth in enrollments, which are record growth in enrollments for this university, IPFW, Ivy Tech, Indiana Institute of Technology, with the support that we all see for St. Francis, for all of those partnering post-high school learning institutions. That's the movement for the future. Sometimes we look at this in a negative light, and we aren't looking at the positive side. Today we have well over 1,000, almost 1,400 employees working at International. These are high-paying jobs where all the new design, all of the truck and engine group, 36 different units are being designed there. That's the kind of growth that we've seen since the time in '82 that those jobs left our community. We had an opportunity to bring President Jischke to our city, and I offered an opportunity for him to meet with a number of different businesses. We are moving now to encouraging advanced manufacturing. I visited a plant recently, Ottenweller Machinery, a plant that started as a blacksmith shop and now has over 147 employees using the best technology to take a traditional business of heavy manufacturing, supplying Caterpillar and others. And so we need to continue to remind all of our individual citizens and young people that you have to get the learning to get the earning. And that'll be part of the direction that we'll continue to urge for our community.
I think Fort Wayne's economy really needs a boost in a couple major ways. One is we do need to make sure that we're working more closely with our existing businesses to listen to their concerns and respond to their concerns before they turn into reasons for leaving. I have talked about the business visitation program. The mayor says that the city, not always him, but many members of the city economic development staff have visited a couple hundred businesses every year. And that's important, but I think what we've missed is visiting the corporate CEOs that are located outside our community to say, your investment in Fort Wayne is important. I think we also need to make sure that we're reducing government's burden on business and industry. We still, too often, I think, have too many rules getting in the way. Now, there may have been a drop in the amount of time that it takes to get a permit done, but the concern, really, I think, for most of the business community is what are all those regulations doing there anyway? Earlier this year, the mayor finally said he would start a review of all the regulations that government has, yet that still has been yet to get underway in any major way. I talked to a city council member about that just today. So we need to make sure that government is not getting in the way. We also need to be accountable for our economic development efforts to make sure that whatever we're doing, if we're focusing on these clustered industries, obviously if we say we're focusing on technology and that's important, then we should be visiting those companies right now at their corporate headquarters or elsewhere. We need to make sure that we're accountable. So a year from now we can tell you all, what have we done in the efforts to get those types of jobs here.
It's important for us to attend to the basics. Yes, personal visits, and I do many of them, are important. But those business leaders want results. They want the ability to see that their taxes will be held down as low as possible. Our city is one of the few local units of government in the state not to raise taxes. I've worked hard with a bipartisan effort, Republican members of my administration and the City Council, to do those things that will improve our city. Making investments in the wastewater treatment plant, the water filtration plant, doing the basics well, running the city like a business is one of the most important things that a mayor can do. I have no ability to be able to predict nor control the rain or the recession. Perhaps the president does, but I don't. A mayor has to use the leadership present right now to do the things that will make a difference in the lives of those businesses. Let me give you one example. We've gone to every single commercial and industrial park, and we have listened and taken action to improve the roads, the sewers, the streets, fill the potholes, get things done quickly. Why? Because that sends a message that you're taking care of the basics. When a company wants to come here and expand, they don't want to have pothole-full streets. They want to know that you're getting the basics done, you're removing the snow, you're getting the leaves picked up, you're reducing the late trash pickups by 50%. Linda says this is unimportant. This is important. Basics are very, very important.
I didn't say it was unimportant. In fact, I'm glad to know that you continue that process that I started. Really, I encouraged the former mayor to working on roads and industrial parks. We did the Centennial Industrial Park. We got Interstate Industrial Park in the CIP, which is the capital plan for the future projects for Fort Wayne, and I think that's very important. And thank you. I'm glad you continued that very important program.
Let's move on to the next question. It comes from Karla, and it will be directed to Linda.
Both of the candidates have talked about needing to be a salesperson or cheerleader for our community. Helping the disadvantaged areas of our community will take more than that. What special efforts will you take to spur economic development in the disadvantaged areas?
One thing I talk about in my plan, and I talk about it in terms of the downtown area, but I think we can see it happen in the neighborhoods adjacent to downtown and also in certain key areas, as I mentioned before, along South Calhoun Street or perhaps in certain corridors, is to do the same thing that other cities are doing, and that is target a small area at a time, a neighborhood or a street, like, for instance, say, Creighton from Hannah to Anthony, and say we're going to put our efforts right here to help develop commercial businesses, to help the local community partner with the local community, churches and other faith-based groups who are interested in doing this, or small business owners who are interested in starting businesses in the core part of the city, and do everything we can to make that as simple as possible. We've got some great opportunities there because in that particular area of Hannah and Creighton, because of the investment that's already being made by a lot of nonprofit organizations. But if we could do things like helping cut the cost of excavation by government participating in that, special low-interest loan programs for commercial areas, and also maybe waiving sewer and water tap fees in those areas to encourage investment in the heart of our community. It's very important for Fort Wayne to stay as competitive as possible in those areas, otherwise it'll be easier for development to go further and further away.
I'm glad that, Linda, you brought up the question of investment in our core area. We have actually accomplished that. We have pulled together a team of people who were all looking at different locations. The Hannah Creighton project, for instance, is a wonderful example of how a faith-based community, a Lutheran church, Catholic church, coming together along with a neighborhood development corporation, working with the library, with the opportunity for the Head Start program to be relocated in a new building there, to make sure that we're putting the best CityLink transportation facility right there as part of a commitment by the Urban League for an after-school program as well. That $9 million complex is a perfect example of how the city, helping to convene and work and acquire property and assist, leveraging those resources. We will have one of the best opportunities for us to see growth and development in that area as a result of those investments that are being made. We also have reorganized our department so that we have individuals. For instance, we have one person specifically responsible for working on neighborhood-based business investment, retail investments. We have 3 locations where we're seeing new retail go into the core of our central city. And of course, the Southtown Mall development, which I've been working on, and we have over 500 jobs ready to go there as we get that project developed and the Menards store gets built.
Much of what we've heard about is, again, that more of the public and not-for-profit investment. That's very important in the Hannah Creighton area, but we really need to make sure that we're getting private investment there. That's really what my plan for Southtown is all about, making sure that we're using the private dollars, that taxpayers' dollars, I should say, to help spur private investment, rather than government being the owner of the property and the developer. I think it's very important to make sure that we have the right kind of business climate, so businesses feel comfortable coming to the city of Fort Wayne to say, we have an idea here, and what can you do to help partner with us in that idea? That's what my idea is for Southtown. The mayor would choose to keep a great deal of those tax revenues to build a police fire training academy, or Homeland Security, or whatever the title is today, for that particular academy. And I think that that's the wrong idea. I think we need private jobs and private investment. I believe all of those 100 acres at Southtown Mall can work for some kind of commercial, retail, or dining experience. And that's the kind of government I would like to present to people, to say we'll be happy and aggressive in working with you to make sure that we have the tools available and you have access to them, so we can share some of your risk but not take all of it, in order to get private jobs, good jobs, in all parts of our community.
How many years would you wait before the private sector would take action at Southtown, Linda? What would be the time frame? 5 more years, 10 more years, 15?
Well, I think there's private developers right now, but you're moving forward with condemnation, and so they're feeling a little hesitant about jumping in. I mean, I've talked to a couple different people who are interested in privately developing the mall, and I've never said I'm totally opposed to condemnation. What I was opposed to is that when you said you were going to condemn it, you didn't have it going over into the hands of the private developer right away. Government was making the $8.3 million worth of investment there, and the private developer gets 60% of everything that's sold on the property, as I've understood the deal from the newspaper, without ever having to put any money up front. So I just think government could be a smarter partner with people, be able to work in a way that uses tax incentives available to get private investment there, to get private jobs on that property and elsewhere around the community where our area is challenged.
Private sector investment will be made there. There was a request for proposals, and this was the proposal that came forward. No other proposals came forward from the redevelopment.
That's because you didn't use the tax incentives. You didn't put all the incentives on the table.
Absolutely.
You could have, because you were keeping them to use them.
All right, I'm going to have to cut you both off. I hate to do this. I think we're going to have some great closing statements, because we're leaving a lot of issues just hanging out there tonight. But for the purposes of time, we need to move along. Bryson has our next question, and you'll be addressing the mayor.
How could we make Fort Wayne more attractive to those who live here And how could we get community involvement from those who feel marginalized?
That's an excellent question. Can I talk about the last one first, if I might? One of the things that I've tried to do in this administration is to change the focus of how we get citizen involvement and input. Obviously, citizens can participate in almost 300 neighborhood associations through our partnership efforts. But for instance, when I saw that it was not easy for individuals to get to a noonday State of the City message, I created a method of report to the people sessions, taking those into the neighborhoods in the evenings, weekends, making available the time when someone could get away from work, be able to come and share their opinions. We had over 14 of those sessions this year and as many last year. We've also been able to reach out through things like our utility bill stuffers, creating more online activity where input can come through the web. We've also made a real commitment to continue our community-based policing effort by having neighborhood liaison officers working with our neighborhood associations. One of the things that I hope to do will be to use the leadership that Fort Wayne has been recognized in terms of our digital city initiative. Increasingly, more and more people have the ability to be online. And what we've done is to open up everything from bill paying to opinion gathering. We want to continue that process. We are ranked 3rd in the country, no other city in Indiana, in terms of our digital cities and our outreach. Your first part of that question about how we can make sure that we are working hard to engage citizens, the Youth Council is a good example. Creating an opportunity for more diverse opinions to be heard on boards and commissions. I've worked hard to do that. I'd certainly look forward as we see more and more students at campuses like IPFW finding ways to extend the internship program that we've set up. We know that students who are involved, and we already have a number of interns, students that are involved in working in a place of business end up being more committed to staying in the community. And that's why...
Excuse me, I hate to keep interrupting you, but it's that's the format that I guess is kind of tend to do that, because I know both of us could talk for 5 minutes, but I'd just like to get a word in. I think it's important when someone feels marginalized, it's because they may not feel that government or any institution is open to them. And I think your question really speaks to the heart of building a trusting relationship with government. One of the favorite things I like to do in campaigning is going door to door, because people are always surprised to see you show up. And I say, you know what, I'll be back when I'm the mayor, because it's so important. You see something about neighborhoods, you understand where people are coming from and their needs and their concerns in a much different way when you're walking on their front porch as opposed to just driving by in the car. It's important for government to get out among the people. I think when it comes to issues like crime, our police officers themselves, the officers on the street, should be problem solvers with individual citizens or with business owners, so that they don't have to come to a meeting or make a phone call to a high-up official in city government, but that they feel comfortable talking directly to police officers themselves. The same thing goes with the distribution of information about statistics and about government service. Why make it be one time a year? Why not be able to, I would welcome the opportunity to speak regularly to businesses about crime statistics, and then also to go to churches and other groups. Not everybody's a member of their neighborhood association. Although a neighborhood association would be, the association system is a very important one to me, and I would try to make sure that we have ways to keep them involved in government.
May I give another example? At a recent neighborhood meeting, and again, I attend many of those, and we have lots of opportunities to go door to door, as I'm doing now. An individual at the end of the meeting, sharing ideas, sharing questions, said, "Mayor Richard, I'd like to have your yard sign." And I said, "Thank you. Why do you want to do that?" And she said, "Because in your administration, for the first time, I didn't feel marginalized. You plowed my snow. You came down and got my street, which had not been plowed for a long time." So this issue of marginalization can have a number of different dimensions to it. Providing basic services, taking action, being responsive, that's also part of how we make an outreach from government to citizens feel like they're being heard because they're getting results.
It is time for the next question. I have it, and I'll be addressing you, Linda. Some Fort Wayne property owners are afraid that the property tax reassessment may cause devastating increases. What would you do to address their concerns?
Well, of course, the whole issue of reassessment is something that's facing all Hoosiers right now because of the change in state law, and we really don't know exactly how it's going to affect Fort Wayne. But I think there's one thing is clear, is that we need to make sure that people do understand the changes, that we're that I know the county assessor's office is going to work very hard, I'm sure, at trying to get the word out, but people need to have an understanding of how the law might affect them. I think it's also important, of course, for government, it's the most important thing, for government to make sure that it's not taking up too much of the tax bill. And of course, next year as a reassessment year means that the value of all the property in Allen County has gone up, which means that really the tax rate should be going down. And in most years, every year in the past, as I went back and looked at reassessment records, every time there was a reassessment year, the property tax bill actually went down. Now this year, it's the mayor says he's going to hold it flat, but usually it goes down. So I'm not quite sure why that is. I think that we clearly need to make sure that government's doing all it can to keep its end of the taxes down. And finally, I think we do need to look at the legislature. I'm concerned that if older homes in particularly are hit hardest by reassessment, that it will give people one more excuse to go further and further away and maybe move to another county. And so I know that that kind of concern is being addressed in the legislature right now, and there are ideas for some proposals, and I'll be very anxious to follow those because we have to make sure our city stays competitive.
I've been taking action for many years on this subject. As a former state senator, I had the opportunity to work with the Metropolitan Mayors Alliance, which I helped to found, and I'm now the chair of that. And in the 2002 session, we were instrumental in lobbying the General Assembly to make sure that we took into account this radical change that was coming from the Supreme Court order that would severely affect residential property. In addition to advocating and helping get that legislation passed, which will protect many homeowners from the increases in the reassessment, we've also been fighting here to extend the homestead tax credit and also to create an extension of a tax abatement for residential homes. We now have that in place. We're working to implement the communication, recently advertising all that information through the bill stuffers in our utility bills. So I've been taking action after listening to the concerns, and of course the most important thing a mayor can do is, unlike the county government and other units of government, we are not raising property taxes.
I think it's interesting that the whole issue of reassessment has come up this year, obviously because of the changes in state law and how that works. But I think it really shows how much we really don't understand a lot about some of the finances we have. I mean, there is some good news on the horizon as well. Changes in the way the state is working. It will be assessing for school taxes, means that part of your property tax bill will be going down because of school tax changes. And there are some opportunities here for us, I think, to continue furthering the public education's effort on how their tax bill works and on the different parts of it, and being able to work with the county actually to be able to find ways to merge some different functions of government. So we're actually trying to hold the tax bills down that way by making sure we're doing everything as efficiently as possible. One way to try to build a good trusting relationship wouldn't be to badmouth them every time you have an opportunity to say that bad county government, they're raising our taxes, when they have the whole burden of the criminal justice system on them right now, and are trying to work very hard to do everything they can to, with the jail expansion, with a much better facility for housing juvenile offenders, and new programs based at trying to help offenders get back into the community. So I think rather than just pointing fingers and that kind of bickering that continues to go on, we need to find real ways to form new partnerships with county government and build trusting relationships so we can really make some major changes and mergers in government that will help keep those taxes lower.
I think as the taxpayer knows, 50% of all the county taxes are paid by city residents, and anytime you can help save taxpayer money, you should do that. And I've made very specific proposals to be able to help save taxpayer money. We've cooperated throughout my administration in ways that were never there before. For instance, in the first 7 months, I was able to break the logjam that took 7 years to get an 800 megahertz radio communication system for emergency purposes involved with the county, the sheriff. We got that done. We got it up and going. It was there shortly after 9/11, in place because we were working for many months to get that accomplished.
I think it's interesting that you talk, excuse me, it's interesting you talk about how much you can save with your proposal, which you sent in the mail to the commissioners on $2 million, but you've still not been able to say exactly what those, how the merger, what it'll cost. You know it'll save $2 million, but you don't know what it'll cost.
I'd be happy to respond to that. The questions that we've, by the way, I've been meeting with Marla Irving and other commissioners for many, many months. We were asked to submit. They were asked to submit in writing by the President of the City Council and the County Council those things that we would want to merge, those activities that we're engaged in. And so my 7 letters outlined at their request what we were doing, what we could do in the future. And so I think, Linda, that that's a little bit of a misunderstanding from your point of view, because I've been communicating face-to-face in meetings. Mark Becker has been meeting with over 20 meetings at my request to make sure that we are coming up with the first in the history of our community comprehensive plan between the city and the county.
And we're going to have to stop the discourse there on this particular question. Our next one comes from Karla, and she will be addressing the mayor.
There are some large pieces of virtually vacant land in the southeast part of Fort Wayne that could be aggregated for economic development purposes. What role will the city play in aggregating the property when you are mayor?
We've already been doing that. An example, not necessarily in the far southeast, but a project that attracted the attention of the National Secretary, U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development, is the Liberty Street project, where suburban home builders, along with a community development corporation, the city of Fort Wayne, and other partners, acquired property that had been owned by the county because of tax sales for properties that had gone on the tax rolls. And we are now seeing 22 homes that are coming up in that area and being sold. Another project would be on the tire fire site, where, again, working with the Community Development Corporation through Community Development Block Grant money, we have Phoenix Place and now Phoenix Manor, and we're working to develop all of that site with, again, housing that could be aggregated as a result of the acquiring of the property that was the tire fire site. So we have a number of projects like that. We have 2 other projects. We are pulling properties together that have been under the ownership of the county. The county has over 1,400 parcels that they have taken control of as a result of the failure to pay taxes on those. And we are putting a GIS map together. We're sitting down with the county, aggregating the properties, coming up with a plan of development. That's part of the Hannah Creighton project. The land that was aggregated there to make room for the new library and for that project came as a result of the collaborative effort, and some of those were tax sale properties that we were able to combine with properties being acquired to create the critical mass for development.
Could I ask for clarification? Were you talking about further out, the more rural areas or the undeveloped parts of southeast Fort Wayne? You know, that it's really a very interesting question, and one of the reasons that, one of the things I call for is a master plan study of utilities, because many of those areas are actually not served by water and sewer, and that's one of the reasons 469N has not developed better on the southeast side and clear around to the airport. So I think we really, as a community, need to look strongly on where we want growth to occur, and then work with groups like the Ministerial Alliance, who are working now with property that was formerly waste management property around the landfill, and making sure we're doing everything we can to make sure that to plan for the future with utilities in that way. Nothing's going to grow without utilities, so it's a very basic step, and unfortunately it's very expensive. We have to make sure we're focusing on that in the right way. And as we work with counties and other people, I hope we do have the opportunity to be honest with them about what figures we have. You know, I still never heard an answer to the question about exactly how much it's going to cost when these things merge, just because you think you can save $2 million. You know, we all sides have to work together with good information, open plans, and a good vision for our community about what we'd like to see in all parts of our community.
I'm glad Linda brought up the concept of aggregating property. Through my leadership, we were able to get the 700 acres that had been undeveloped and really lying fallow there along Adams Center Road. We now have 325 acres that have been made available to the Redevelopment Commission and the Economic Development Alliance. So we can make available low-cost property to create jobs. The same thing has happened with the partnership, which now includes Howard University, and the opportunity for the Ministerial Alliance to take the 200 acres that they have and to create jobs through commercial development, perhaps some residential as well along that area. And my administration pulled together the team through the work of Andy Downs and others. We had many, many meetings to resolve the conflict that had been going on since 1921, lawsuits between the City of New Haven and the City of Fort Wayne, the chem waste lawsuits that have been pending for many years. And we were able to pull people together to resolve that, and now there's close to 700 acres of property that will be able to be developed, and instead of it being a wasteland, developed for jobs and economic development.
I think Fort Wayne also needs to be ready to take advantage of good things. There was a developer that came to town last year and said, well, I'd like, maybe it's been 2 years now, and said, I'd like to develop several parcels, maybe 70 or 80 properties inside the city with new housing. And the city didn't respond in any kind of a way to help or to make sure that there was any kind of a plan in place. So as a result, this developer ended up not really being able to finance the way he'd like to, and so the houses, you can drive down Lewis or Street and see the results. The houses that he built are like way back from the street, like 40 or 50 yards back from the street, because he couldn't afford the excavation costs to be able to build a house where regular houses go. And so it really is a very unattractive part of that neighborhood now, and it's because city government wasn't responsive enough to be able to say, hey, here's somebody from the private sector who has an idea to try to build up an older part of our community. What can we do to partner with them to make sure that what happens here makes sense, and that there's some abilities to work and make a great project instead of something that looks like it came from another planet, just poked inside, an existing neighborhood. I think we really missed an opportunity there.
All right, I'm going to have to stop it there. Let's give everyone a chance to collect their thoughts and catch their breaths. We're going to take a 1-minute break, and we'll be right back with the closing statements.
We, the people of the United States, in order
to form a more perfect union, establish justice,
ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense,
promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty
to ourselves and our posterity,
do ordain and establish
this Constitution for the United States of America.
Government receives its power from the people. Do your part. Vote.
You know, if she continues to sell product at a rate of 3 per hour, unit cost, say 60 cents. Factor in breakage, downtime, lost sales, you're looking at $2,400 a month. Indiana University, Purdue University, Fort Wayne. One university, two great names.
We are back. It's time for the closing statements, and we will start with you, Linda.
Well, once again, I thank everyone involved, and I think it's great that students are here involved. Thank you, Karla and Bryson, for being here to help participate in this important exercise for our democracy and talking about the issues of the day, and many of which have this evening, of course, revolved around jobs. And jobs is the issue that my campaign raised to the forefront in this election year, and I'm proud of that. Today, I stopped at small business owner is a supporter of mine, and I hadn't seen him since my book was published, and he said, Linda, you are right on track. Jobs is what it's all about. Every day someone comes into his business that can't afford, it's an auto body shop, and they can't afford what they'd really like to have happen with their car because someone in their family is out of a job, and they're wondering what they might be able to do. The president of the North Anthony Neighborhood Association told me that at least 5 homes in North Anthony are in foreclosure. There was an article in the paper not too long ago that said many foreclosures are happening in Fort Wayne right now. One lady told a friend of mine, well, my street got paved. I'm glad my street got paved, but I can't cash that asphalt at the bank. I need a job. Under Graham Richards' watch, jobs have left, salaries have fallen, and Fort Wayne has dropped in its national rankings for economic performance. Now, there are many companies that have been able to stay and grow even in these difficult economic times. And my opponent likes to show up at the ribbon cuttings. But when you're the mayor, you can't take credit for the good without taking responsibility for the bad. Central Soya, Slater Steel, Lincoln, Dana, Tokheim. My opponent says that he created an economic development plan and 125 people helped him. Well, I've talked to many of those people, and they really don't know what's happened with all of it. Most of the progress that has happened have been on projects that were actually started by the previous administration, like the industrial park on the northwest side of town or work on the sewer system. If he wants to point to a plan that doesn't have very many new ideas, he must be talking about his own. Fort Wayne, we can do better. We need leadership that brings the community together. innovations that make government less bureaucratic and more responsive to the citizens, and accountability to focus and sustain our efforts. I have ideas, I have the experience to back them up, and I have the passion to make a difference. I would be honored with your vote on November 4th.
Thank you, Linda. Now let's hear from the mayor. Here's his closing statement.
Economic development, the creation of jobs, all of those issues are self-evident. We have a national recession. It's been a very challenging time. But I think the way that you, as a mayor, provide leadership for making sure that we're retaining and gaining every job is to build a better city. Building a better city, running the city like a business, is the way that we can make a difference for every company in our community and every individual seeking a job or every individual currently with a job. It's important that we focus on public safety. We have the lowest crime rate in 20 years. It's important that we focus on the infrastructure. I cannot be able to control the rain or this national recession, but we can run the government like a business. We can anticipate rainy days and build up a $23 million cash safety net so we don't have to raise taxes, so that we are able to more than double the amount of road resurfacing, improve basic city services. That's fundamental to running a good business. I believe that these challenges will continue, but better times are ahead. I happen to have grown up in this neighborhood, and one of the things that I did was to be active in the Boy Scouts, and the idea of being prepared, the idea of looking ahead. That's what we've done in city government. We are actually providing services with 30,000 more residents with fewer employees than we had in 1999, with the exception of public safety. So we're providing better services, we're making sure that we are working with every single business, and we're fighting for every single job. I have flown to St. Louis, I've been to Hartford, Connecticut, to Philadelphia, but it's more important than just listening. You've got to take the action, and that's what we're doing. Partnering with our partners at the state through the Department of Commerce, we have created 3,000 new jobs and saved over 12,500 jobs. This is a tough economy. We've been rising above those tough times, and I'm very proud of the partnerships that have helped me as this community leader keep Fort Wayne moving at a time when many communities in our country are stagnating and falling behind. I appreciate the opportunity that you have given me to serve. I look forward to 4 more years, if that is your choice, in rehiring me for the next 4 years.
Mayor, thank you. Thanks to both the candidates. In fact, thank you to our student panelists as well. Thank you to this audience, and thank you to our audience at home. We hope you're all better informed voters after this. Have a good night.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor.